Hey gamers, I found a content creator called meta527II. Turns out he makes commentaries, so I watched one, and yeah, I didn't like it. Anyways, I'm gonna let him give the context. If you complain about me doing this in the comments, I will curse your entire family.
Hello everyone, meta527II here, and I am bringing you another commentary. Okay, so this would have been my third commentary back when I started out, but the video downloader I was using at the time was being stupid. But I found much better ways to get footage since then, so this time it will be a lot easier to get the footage for this commentary. And this is going to be a commentary on Alex Rochon and Josh Scorcher's list of their top 15 most hated video game characters. I know what some of you are probably going to ask me right now, why the heck am I doing a commentary on a video that's 13 years old by the time I'm making this video? Simple. Because I've heard some of the other commentators say that it's okay to do a commentary on an old video, because it can be used as a way to show your audience what not to do when making a video, and that it's okay just as long as you don't act like the original uploaders still stand by what they said.
Yes, just because some other people say it's okay, that automatically makes it okay. Granted, I have no problems with someone commentating on old videos, but something isn't suddenly okay just because several people say it's okay. I have some other problems with Meta covering a video this old based on how he does it, but I'll be saving that for later in order to not be preemptive. Also, something, joke about grave robbing here.
Chicken. Alright, me and Josh Scorcher are back.
Sorry to come off as a grammar Nazi, but don't you mean Josh Scorcher and I are back?
Video games.
Right now you might be thinking, hey, haven't both of you made countdowns about characters you hate? Well, we both realized that there were a few very good choices that we overlooked on both our original lists. Not to mention there's a few from games we didn't play when we made our last lists.
Oh, really? I never would have guessed considering how both of you have done remakes of some of your older lists before, including your last collab.
What was the point of this? I think Meta is trying to imply obviousness, but these intro statements are meant to clarify confusion for people who don't get why they are covering the same topic as they did before. So for you to imply some sort of obviousness with your sarcastic, "Oh really? I would have never guessed," is honestly close-minded, as it ignores not everyone in the audience is aware of their content. Even if they've done other remakes, that doesn't change how there could still be confusion over them covering familiar ground.
What you know about? Perhaps the worst part about her is that for how much of a total she is.
I have no idea what you're trying to say there. I mean, I have no problem with you censoring swears, but you've usually made it obvious what you're trying to say, while here on the other hand, it's extremely unclear what you're trying to say.
I'm not really sure why this matters, since censoring a word would inherently imply that he has something harsh to say about the character, so it's not like you really need to know which swear he's using. Especially given the context clues, you would know it would be a noun.
Tell me when this sounds familiar. I f***ing hate this guy. Yep, it's Blue, and I still do hate him. This guy is just a complete prick. He always takes the Pokemon that's better than yours.
Not everyone has played Pokemon, so they won't understand what you mean by always takes the Pokemon that's better than yours. I know what you mean. He always takes the Pokemon that has a type advantage against yours. If he said that, then non-Pokemon fans would understand you better. But because you don't, people who don't play Pokemon are going to be confused by what you said.
They are going to be confused? But how would you know that? Are there any comments on the video voicing some confusion? This just feels like stretching for a point, since you don't actually prove if there is any confusion at hand. And it seems like a big generalization. It's not even like you say there's a possibility of confusion. No, you straight up say that they will be confused, which implies some form of being definitive, of being absolute. Regardless, Squirtle is better than Charmander in the sense that it has an advantage over it, as in a type advantage. Alex doesn't really need to explain this though, because all the viewer needs to know is that Blue is an obnoxious little crap who is annoying in his attempts to be better than you, and therefore he picks a starter that has some sort of advantage over yours. You're focusing on a small bit of the explanation instead of the bigger picture. Competent viewers will not just hyperfixate on this one part of the video. They will use context clues to come to a conclusion. This is a case of you forgetting about the existence of media literacy, though I will expand upon this later.
He becomes the champion under your nose, and he constantly spews the most annoying one-liners ever.
As far as hated characters go, Blue isn't exactly evil like some of the later characters on this list. He's annoying, yes, yet he's pretty harmless otherwise. Still, if anyone ever says, "Smell you later," to me, ugh.
This part always bothered me. Josh actively sounds like he's defending Blue in his part of the entry.
And now I have a secondhand need to touch grass. Look what you've done, Meta. Josh sounds like he's defending Blue? How though? He just said that Blue isn't as bad as later entries, which he has every reason to, because Blue is only at number 9. He still makes it clear that he doesn't like Blue. He still says that Blue is annoying. The only benefit of the doubt he gives Blue is that Blue isn't as bad as later entries, to which clarifying that is completely fair when the list is in the order of least to most bad. He is still saying that Blue is annoying.
I mean, I understand you want to talk about what keeps Blue from being any higher, but even when you do show anger towards Blue, it just makes you sound like you're only mildly annoyed by him. This is supposed to be a list of entries that you both agree on, so this could give off the impression that you don't agree that he should be on here. I know you've talked about just a few months prior in your favorite Pokemon songs list, that one of the reasons you love the final boss theme from Gen 1 is because you finally get to punish this annoying grandpa's boy, and I don't know if your opinion has changed since then, but if it didn't, then make it sound like you legitimately do hate him, instead of making it sound like forced anger.
I really don't see forced anger here, and you don't elaborate on this much. I mean, given how he straight up mocks Blue's tone and lets out an annoyed grunt, that would show that he is angry, which is more than just a mild annoyance like you claim. As for them not agreeing, they do agree. They both don't like Blue, and one of them clarifying why Blue is only number 9 on the list doesn't take away from that fact, as he's merely explaining how later entries are worse than him.
The good part about Blue is, you can name him anything you want.
Okay, but what's the point of keeping this bit in if you have nothing to say about it?
Wanna know another reason why I'm not a huge Halo fan?
Jeez, I'll never guess considering how you're talking about 343 Guilty Spark on the original version of your hated characters list. Which, unfortunately, I can't show because he deleted the video. Just try to bear with me, okay?
But if the evidence doesn't exist, then you probably shouldn't be making the claim, because you have given your audience no reason to believe you. Even then, not everyone would have seen that list considering how it is deleted. And this could very well be someone's first time watching one of his videos. So even if you knew about him not liking Halo, his audience is still growing. So he has a reason for bringing up his apathy towards Halo on the list, especially when it is used for a segue into the next entry. Like, have you never been in a writing class before? Do you not know what a hook is? It's a language device used to captivate an audience. By bringing up that he doesn't like Halo, he has grabbed the attention of his audience because Halo is popular, and now his audience may want to know why he doesn't like it. You don't have to like this part of the video, but you don't really say anything wrong with it besides, "Oh, deja vu."
I can't believe I forgot this thing on my original list.
Oh, don't feel bad. It only appeared in 2 small points of the game, so I don't think I can really blame you for forgetting to include him.
Smacking you in the face as hard as a person falling off a racetrack. The races with this androgynous beetle thing are punishingly difficult and far from fun.
What does him being androgynous have anything to do with it? I'm sorry if that comes off as a nitpick, but my point still stands. It just feels like you only brought that up because you just desperately wanted an excuse to call him androgynous. And if so, then that just felt extremely forced.
What? Do you not know how adjectives work? It's literally just a descriptive to make sentences more interesting, make language more colorful, and give a better description of what's being said. So no, Meta, your point doesn't stand. It doesn't even sit because you're essentially just faulting him for being a bit more specific. Oh no. Now, whether they succeeded at making their list interesting is subjective, but my point is, you're nitpicking, which I usually wouldn't have an issue with because nitpicks can still be correct, but you're nitpicking to an absurd degree by picking out one word and hyper-focusing on that. Even then, I could very well fault you for mentioning things that are not incredibly important. For example, who was the one who said that Alex's intro was 45 seconds?
So without further ado, let's get past the 45-second long intro and start the video.
Ah yes, yes, Meta, it is so forced to mention how long the intro was. I guess he didn't need to mention that the beetle was androgynous, but by the same logic, you didn't need to mention that the intro was 45 seconds. As for the point itself, did it ever occur to you that he called the beetle androgynous because it's androgynous given the eyeshadow and design? I mean, it looks mainly feminine to me personally, but that's overall subjective on my end, as it's based on my own biased perspective on how women look, and you don't even argue that the word is in the wrong context, to which you don't necessarily have to, but if he's using a word correctly, then it's difficult to call it forced, because he is fitting a word into its proper context. Also, I guess forced is the buzzword of the day, because you keep calling things forced while keeping your explanations at less than a bare minimum. Like, if I had a nickel for every time you use the word forced in a pedantic way, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it's happening twice.
How do I hate thee, Trevelyan? Let me count the ways. Thou art a coward. Thou wilt never shut up.
How about thou art not a video game character, he's a movie character. Just because he happened to appear in a license-based game doesn't mean that he qualifies for the list.
This point would be a valid one if Alex specified in his criteria that this list is based on characters who have originated from video games. I have seen decent points akin to this. One about breaking one's criteria before in other commentaries, but like, he never really does that, since his only sense of criteria is characters I don't like in video games. So this is honestly just you thrusting a no movie characters standard onto a list when it really isn't needed. Ah yes, forcing your own standards onto someone else's video. This is obviously why we make commentaries in the first place.
I am Kinger, and I'm gonna recreate 9/11.
The demon in question, known as Dormant, promises to resurrect a girl if all the 16 Colossi are killed. And Wander, out of desperation and love, trusts the scary-sounding demon. To Dormant's credit, it did say to Wander that there would be a price to pay for killing these beasts.
But does that mean it's right to have the spirit of Dorman possess Wander and have him killed right in front of the girl, who is still dead? Not to mention, when Lord Aemon seals away the new Dorman/Wander hybrid, all that's left of Wander is a horned baby.
Didn't you just say that Wander was killed and now you're showing him still alive except as a baby? By saying that, you're going to confuse people who haven't played Shadow of the Colossus. You could have at least said that Wander wasn't necessarily killed, or Wander does get revived, just as a horned baby. That will save a lot of confusion for your audience.
I feel like you're expecting a lot more context than what is realistically needed, because he specifically said that Wander dies and then is a hybrid, meaning that they have already implied that Wander has been revived in some way, even saying that the Wander hybrid is new. They don't need to make any more clarifications, because that would just mess with the flow and pacing of the video, and no one really wants a 2016 era Green Scorpion video where literally everything is explained in more detail than what's necessary. Even then, do you not know what media literacy is? Not everything needs to be spelled out for the audience. Sometimes having an explanation is enough. All you really need to know is that Wander contributes to this character being one of the worst, since this is just an explanation for why this character is one of the worst. I have never played Shadow of the Colossus, and I still hate this point.
Anyways, that's the end of part 1. I'm surprised that so far I am already near the end of the 3rd page of my script, because this part was overall flawed, but not too bad.
You have made no good points so far. Don't test me, Meta. I accidentally wrote me instead of Meta in the script, so this commentary is no longer vegan friendly.
All of what Porky has done is just pure evil. He is truly the ultimate fat bastard.
Worst way to censor something ever. It's not as hard to make out as the one in the Lark Scene entry.
Because it was obvious that he said bastard, despite you implying that it's somewhat hard to make out by saying it's not as hard to make out, but please do continue.
But the timing is much, much worse, to the point of it being just plain cringe-inducing.
So your point is a subjective nitpick, since cringe is subjective, and you're not even going to elaborate on how this issue can be fixed? I really don't like this video.
Extremely predictable move coming in at 3, 2, 1.
Nah, we're giving him a break this time.
Oh Oh my gosh, I totally didn't see that coming by how overly convenient it was that you just played a clip of him without saying anything.
Even though some countdown entries do begin with clips and music while the presenter has nothing to say for a bit. For example, I remember a guy called Dukio3 making an overrated games list where every entry began with a bit of music from the game he would discuss before his voice popped in.
Number 1.
The game that was hyped beyond any others on this list was Xenogears.
Do you want another example of this type of editing in a video? How about part of the video you're covering? Meaning that the audience has already seen this type of editing before, and therefore they would have a higher chance of being caught off guard by this joke.
Alright, me and Josh Scorcher are back.
Even then, I certainly didn't see this joke coming. Given how popular Sephiroth's theme is, I assumed that it was being used to hype up the audience for an entry about Sephiroth before the rug was being pulled from underneath me. You know, with the existence of hot takes and all that. Now, of course, my personal feelings do not debunk your own, but they do prove that your point is overall subjective at best, which seems to be a running theme with this commentary.
Or the fact that Josh Scorcher admitted that he thought Sephiroth was pretty awesome in his Final Fantasy villains list.
Sephiroth may be overrated, but come on. Even I can't deny that he is incredibly awesome.
Even though the jokes would only be predictable to the people who have watched that list, but the list you're covering has more views than that list, so it's very likely that the audience didn't even know about that list's existence, and therefore didn't know what to expect. You're making a big deal out of nothing, and your point is still subjective at best. Even then, who's to say that he could have never changed his mind about Sephiroth? Obviously, he still likes Sephiroth, but the possibility of his mind changing is still there. So all this point amounts to is, this joke doesn't conform to my standards.
Or the fact that you literally pulled that exact same fake out a year earlier in your overrated characters list. Which, unfortunately, I couldn't show that either, since, like with his original hated characters list, he deleted that too. Not that I blame him, that list was garbage, but seriously, Josh, how stupid do you think we are?
Because having similar jokes in two different videos means that he thinks his audience is stupid. I guess the creators of Phineas and Ferb think that their audience is stupid because of the amount of running gags they put into their show, never mind the fact that your source is once again just, dude, trust me. So for all I know, that joke was different enough to be set apart from this one, and you might be misremembering it. Overall, this just comes off as you assuming the worst from him for very little reason.
Though to be fair, at least this fake-out's not as obvious as the Aerith fake-outs on their Saddest Moments collab, where it's so obvious of a fake-out, where they felt the need to do it twice, making it so obvious of a fake-out that it actually felt like they think we're stupid.
Meta, do you not get how comedy works? Have you never heard the rule of 3 before? Do you not know how building off of what has come before works? Repetition tends to be a thing in comedy. You don't have to like it, but you don't have to keep pushing this narrative that he thinks you're stupid just because you don't think he's funny. That's just dumb.
Oh, Tingle. As much as I hate your creepy, cheapskate guts, I've got to admit one thing. Your chant is pretty awesome. Besides, at least Tingle was sort of mandatory to completing Wind Waker. In the end, he was trying to help Link.
Yeah, but where exactly did the game state that helping Link was Tingle's intention? I mean, sure, he did help you decipher the Triforce charts, but how do you know that it was his main intention? One could easily interpret that as Tingle only helping us so that he could strip us of more rupees needed to decipher the Triforce charts. So how do you know that he actually did want to help us? I'm not saying he didn't, but we don't know for sure what the case is.
Honestly, this is yet another point that comes off as incredibly nitpicky, since Tingle is still objectively helpful. Maybe he isn't trying to be helpful, but the focus on the wording is incredibly pedantic, yet again. Even then, money is exchanged for goods and services, so it's not like Tingle is stripping you of rupees, which, by the way, rupees are incredibly easy for you to obtain in Wind Waker, since they are pretty much everywhere, like in the grass, for example, so it's not like it's a big deal. Stripping you of something gives off a very negative connotation, but everyone needs money to live. Even creepy fictional elves, apparently. So for Tingle to want money in exchange for benefiting you, that shouldn't be him stripping you of something. Even then, this entire point is based on the mere guess that Tingle has bad intentions. Guesses themselves are not arguments. You have not debunked anything. This is not an argument. So shut your mouth. Like, we haven't even gotten to the main point yet, since Tingle is not on the list. And though I'm not saying that you cannot cover small side points, you absolutely can. But if you are going to do that, you probably should make them more substantial than what is essentially a maybe here.
Albeit in his strange, probably child molester way. At least he does a better job at trying to help Link than freaking Kepera Gebera.
This thing is not needed at all in Ocarina of Time. Do we really need an annoying owl to tell us overlong speeches about things that we already know?
What are you talking about? Where the heck did you get things we already know? I mean, yeah, his speeches are extremely annoying, but I can find plenty of times where he tells you about stuff you didn't already know.
To play devil's advocate, did it ever occur to you that this is an opinion list, and therefore he's arguing from the standpoint that he was already aware of the hints that the owl gives prior to the owl giving them? Like, different players have different experiences. I mean, the Zelda series is all about exploring and solving puzzles, which puts emphasis on figuring things out on your own. So who's to say that he didn't figure out what he needs to do before the owl told him to do it? And I guess you could argue that he said the owl tells him stuff we already know, putting emphasis on the word we, which may imply that he's trying to speak for players of Ocarina in Time in general, but that would be you playing word games again, and I think I've made it clear of how much I'm not a fan of that.
I am Kinger, and I'm gonna recreate 9/11.
Now, I hate Kepera Gebera too, but that statement about him only telling you things you already know, that is an outright lie.
You know, lies tend to be intentional, right? Meaning that even if he was objectively incorrect, this could have been him still getting something wrong, instead of him trying to deceive his audience. Or do you just like the worst possible scenario?
No, we do not. Especially when you try to end his speeches, only to have them start all over again. You'll be seeing this guy a good few times on your adventure, which means that you'll be hearing his ramblings over and over and over and over and over and over and
And there's a joke that you literally just reused from the Kepera Gebera entry in your original hated characters list, which I still can show proof of since, again, he deleted it. Last time I bring up a point from a deleted video in this commentary, I promise.
I hate it here, on God.
Because of WMG, we can't post any background music for this part, so it looks like you're just gonna have to settle for My Little Pony.
Oh gosh, no, not Brony music, anything but that! Okay, let's be serious. So you can't play WMG music because of copyright? Which makes sense, but wouldn't the My Little Pony theme also be strictly copyrighted?
First of all, he didn't actually play the My Little Pony theme, since that theme goes like, My Little Pony, or something like that. He played a different song from the show. I'm not even a brony, and yet I could tell you that. Second of all, if a video is copyrighted because of a song, you usually can find that song in the bottom of the video's description, but here, that's not the case. So once again, you don't know what you're talking about. What else is new? Albeit that's not always the case, but if the video was really slammed by copyright, then honestly, prove that to be the case. Not to sound like I'm moving the goalpost here, but there are ways to prove that a song is copyrighted. But you opt for the lazy route by merely suggesting that it is copyrighted, which doesn't prove anything.
He goes on to steal your footage, which has you leaping between two hotels 40 stories up and doing a twist over an helicopter.
Over an helicopter? What great pronunciation skills!
That would be a problem with the sentence structure and the grammar, not pronunciation, since the correct wording would be over a helicopter.
I am Kinger, and I'm gonna recreate 9/11.
You thought Eric Sparrow had no redeeming qualities. You'd be right, but compared to number 1, Eric Sparrow is tame. Because at least Sparrow didn't have your best friend murdered. At least he didn't pretend to murder your girlfriend, your brother, and a fellow assassin of yours. At least he wasn't one of the most unfair final bosses in gaming history. At least he wasn't Jasper Bat Jr.
And at least he didn't have one of the most overused suspenseful themes playing at the beginning of your entry on him.
What was he supposed to do? Find music that aligned with the standards of the all-powerful meta several numbers? Again, you're not really giving any solutions here.
Also, while that was a good way to build up suspense for people who haven't played the game, it'll be extremely obvious for people who have played it.
So you don't actually take issue with what's being done, and you're stretching for a point by being a nitpicky little crap yet again. Brilliant. Also, hi, I'm someone who hasn't played this game. Can you actually tell me why this is obvious to people who have played it? Because ignoring how I have been getting increasingly frustrated with you going, oh, this is obvious, and that is obvious, all video, since obviousness is subjective, if you're going to make another crappy point, you could at least explain it.
But easily the worst part about this guy is the entire 3-phase fight with him. The first form is surprisingly easy, but it'll leave you wondering how you beat it when Jasper's health stops depleting.
If it'll make you wonder how the heck you beat him, then how is it easy? Are you going to elaborate on that?
Just because he didn't get when the boss fight ended, that doesn't suddenly mean that it wasn't easy, since he still cleared through Jasper's first stage with ease. These are two completely different concepts here, Meta.
And in the end, when you finally kill Jasper, it's not satisfying at all. He dies with a huge grin on his face. He doesn't even scream in agony. Why not? I hate this guy. He deserves to.
And besides, the way you worded that honestly made you sound like an immature kid who didn't get what he wanted. I'm not usually the kind of jerk who uses the, oh well, we can't all get what we want in life, so we have no right to be mad excuse, but this crosses the line. Being all like, why didn't he scream in agony? I wanted him to! You would have been fine just saying that his death was unsatisfying because of how it was presented, but no. Instead you have to be all like, why did he die the way I wanted him to die? I'm sorry, but this is not how you end off an entry, let alone an entire countdown.
Special thanks to Aaron Tempest for pointing this out to me, but I have reason to believe that Meta took this from Alex himself, as Alex makes a similar point in his tri-op with fellow commentator Master TP10 and ex-commentator Digitaltie.
Okay, my focus is less on being snarky and more on providing input. But I admit this is about where I paused the video to start laughing. As guilty as I am of making similar remarks in my hated characters list from 2010, the problem with saying a game character robbed me of something I wanted is that it sounds entitled, and at worst, unwilling to ask questions about why a specific decision was made, thus encouraging ignorance.
And now it's time for my final thoughts, which usually I don't give, but this video is a special case. The main reason why I hate this video overall is because you're so focused on semantics rather than the actual arguments being made from Josh and Alex. And it makes for a video that doesn't really do anything, especially when the source material is so old. And I have no problem with covering an old video as long as it's done retrospectively, yet you do nothing to make this a retrospective and instead respond to it as a standard commentary, only with the points mainly being nitpicks. Now, nitpicks can be correct, but a lot of yours just weren't even that. I know you have been making commentaries for far longer than I have, Meta, but this video feels like it came out of 2016, where commentaries were more so everything wrong with CinemaSins-esque videos, rather than actual argumentation. Granted, this isn't the worst thing I've seen from you, since you're not sexist like you were in your one-shot no one liked, or transphobic like you were in that one community post no one liked, and you don't needlessly slander the male pregnancy community this time, but this video was still overall tedious to watch nonetheless. And yeah, I have nothing else to say, so I can sign out now.